Oh, what happened here? Okay, I got it.
Hello, Facebook friends. How's everybody? We're about to go on the air. So go ahead and tell your friends we've got 1 minute. 1 minute.
For attending services at Veritas Bible Church, you may contact us at vbcaz.org. Again, that's vbcaz.org. Our worship services commence on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. and Tuesday evenings from 7 to 9 p.m. Our prayer for you is that our gracious God would sanctify your heart in His truth for
Can I have a piece of napkin?
truth.
Nods. You guys ready? Let's do this, okay?
KXCGJF and translator K241CS, Phoenix, Arizona.
That is having something for later. We'll take care of it.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, the feet may fail, and there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. And I'll call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours. You are Your grace abounds in deepest waters.
Hello, and welcome to the program. Shlama. Shlama, everyone. How's everybody doing during this glorious, beautiful day? It's great to be alive. Shlama, shalom, and salam. The three Semitic words for, which means the same thing, really. And they all sound the same, don't they? Shlama, shalom, salam. Means peace. Peace, may God grant you peace. May you have peace today and always. Today we have a jam-packed program. I'm gonna be a little loud today, so I kind of warned when I was promoting the program today to get your earplugs. Yeah, I'm gonna start screaming today because I'm very hyped. I'm very, very hyped today with all the news that's going on. It's just been very hard for me to stay still in my seat and not react. But it is what it is. In the world, it is what it is. And all we can do is, rather than become reactive, we must learn our lessons and we must be proactive. So rather than be reactive, and unfortunately, in the case of what's going on in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq, it's just chaos. It's just absolute chaos. And you know what I want to start out this program with, and before I start the program, if there's ever a time that I want to ask you if you do want to consider partnering with the program with a one-time donation or a monthly contribution or support this program, because this program is one of a kind. and there's really nothing out there. As far as what's going on, I know there are a lot of Christian broadcasts out there. There are a lot of news broadcasts out there. There are a lot of everything out there. There's nothing, but there is absolutely nothing out there that is broadcasting specifically for the cause of the Christians of the Middle East that have been marginalized, that are being battered, beaten, scattered. And today we're going to go through a timeline, a process of events that has reached to the chaotic event that we are, that the dismal numbers of Christians that remain in the Middle East is practically really nothing. And with this current conflict that's going on, it's just heartbreaking to hear and to listen and to see what's going on in the Middle East, in Iraq specifically. So if you God lays it on your heart, it is getting to the end of the year, and if you're looking for a place to sow a seed, please consider the Mona K Show as we bring you live feed, and we bring you news, raw news, straight from the ground. And as we just traveled to Israel, after about 600 years absence from the Assyrian Church of the East, or the Assyrian nation, because of the persecution and the oppression that they had suffered for 600 years, starting from the 1400s, where the Mongolian, or actually he's called the Turk-Mongol, Tamerlan, nearly decimated the Christians of the Middle East, specifically in the Mesopotamia region. And for the first time, we declared victory by saying, Tamerlan, the Mongol warlord, you are in the grave, but the descendants of the believers and the faithfuls of the ancient faith of the Assyrian Church of the East live on and have made it to Jerusalem once again to ordain 2 deacons and to add on to our faithfuls when you, evil, successor of evil, are ensued. So therefore, today, I mean, we serve our purpose like we do every month. So if it's, if you'd like to send us a gift, please email us, and we'll put the address of the station as well as where we operate from in Glendale, Arizona. If you'd like to send us a, anonymous check, you don't want us to announce it, that's fine. I know there's some people that donate or support us don't like their names mentioned. So I want to get straight to the news because there's so much to cover today. In light of what just happened the other day, and I want to thank the Vice President and, of course, the President, because the order came from the President. Vice President Pence, to persecuted Christians, we stand with you. So finally, maybe the voice of the Christians are being heard, of course, and we'll get to it, where the United States of America no longer will wait for the UN, which has been pointless. I mean, the UN has been irrelevant as far as the Christian genocide is concerned. And so they will no longer wait for the help of the UN to actually reach out and send support to the Christians. They are going to do it specifically. And I want to thank the administration that I voted for, the administration that I knew would make a difference, the administration that is still working and remembers the forgotten people, and not just the forgotten people of America, but the forgotten people of the world. And I am so thankful to the fact that I know some people are doubtful and saying, I'll see it when I'll believe it when I see it. But you know what? So far, so good. So I do want to commend the administration for at least getting out there and mentioning that the Christians are being marginalized, and the Christians are by far the worst that have suffered through this chaos, through this controversy of everything that's going on. So this is why I want to start my program. And by the way, please follow us on Mona K Show, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They all have one thing in common. They all start with @ of course, and then Mona K Show or hashtag Mona K Show. So it's very easy. I mean, very easy to remember. Go out there and just say like or follow, and invite other people to follow us and to like our page. And this is what I want to start the program today. The Christians must be given international protection. I mean, that cannot be stated any more clearer than that. There is no other way to say that. You cannot dice words with any. The Christians, I don't care who gets mad at this point, who's listening to me right now says, Mona, why just Christians? Because Iraq is made up of many ethnic groups. And you're absolutely right. But no other group, No other nation, none, have suffered longer and suffered the worst as the Christians. So this is why I say today, the Christians must be given international protection. Today, I'm so hyped up, as I've been telling people all over. You might want to use your earplugs. Once again, that's a warning because I will get loud. You want to be part of the program, you can either send us a message. Nadia's looking out to the feedback, to the post Facebook feed, or to the Twitter, of course, at Mona K Show. Or you can call us, 602. Mark is standing by, right? 602-368-3776. I'd love to hear from you. I know you guys like to listen, and I sometimes don't give you an opportunity to call. But please, if you feel like calling, interrupt me. If you have a good point, if you wanna say something to me, 602-368-3776. One more time. 602-368-3776. And of course, you're listening to us on the 1280 KXEG stations, both of them at the same time. It's the 1280 AM and 96.1 FM. I know there's much local national news that we can report on, of course, and I'm all part of that, and I'm all for that. But I will leave that to the mainstream media. You already are getting all you need to know about the developing Russia collusion and the dossier and how it's turning the Democrats on their heads with the controversy they started, but now it's ricocheting right back. It's having a ricochet effect on the Democrats because everything they're accusing the Republicans on, at one point or another, they're guilty of. So it's almost like, you live in a glass house. Do me a favor. Don't throw rocks at me. Don't throw rocks at me because you know what's going to happen. You live in a glass house. And so when I pick up a rock and throw back at you, you know what that means, right? Bouncing right back. It's bouncing right back on the Democrats' heads. And I'm not saying this because I'm a conservative or, stop it, for God's sake. Give this up. Unify the country, for God's sake. Stop with this rhetoric. It's time to move on. The election happened in November. When are we going to get over it? Let's get over it and move on. I'm not sitting here to tell you, it's your fault or my fault. Let's just agree to disagree and move on. We have a country to run, for God's sake. You and me, we the people are part of this government. We are the government. And if we are divided, that this country is divided. We don't have a United States. We have a divided United States. Actually, yeah, that doesn't sound right. We have a divided states, not a United States. But the point being is this. Democrats, come on. And this goes for the Republicans. Republicans, they accuse the Democrats of this and that. You know what? There will come a time when their turn will come. Come on, we're not children. This country's been here for over 200 years. Haven't we learned our lesson? Haven't we learned that what strife will bring to us, division will do? It will divide us. People look up to us. We're the beacon of light. America is the beacon of light. It's a refuge to the oppressed and to those that are running from the other oppressive governments. We should be embarrassed of ourselves. Come on. You know what? I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but this country's killing me. We're in the greatest country of the world. And look at our Twitter accounts. Look at our Facebook accounts. Look at, one accusing the other. It's just unbelievable. I'm going to leave, like I said, I'm going to leave the rest of it to the mainstream media to deal with it. And you follow along as you feel you want to. I want to report on what I set out to do when I launched this program. To fulfill our mission, of raising our voices for the oppressed, the persecuted, and give a voice to for the survivors, because no one's talking about them. In the media right now, they're so absorbed. I mean, they are so preoccupied with what's going on with Russia, with Clinton, with Trump saying this in his Twitter account, and he's relentless or whatever the situation is. Nobody's talking about what's going on in Iraq. I know people, they're over there, they deserve whatever they got coming to them, And as we often, and it's going to be my theme today, as we've said on the Mona K Show, as we've said on the program, as we have mentioned, it's going to be the whole theme, so get ready. I'm going to be saying that throughout. As we have been saying, what happens over there, wherever over there is, I don't care where over there is, it will end up coming here. So we have to pay attention to what's going on over there. I'm an American. I don't have to care about what's going on over there. Even though my ancestral home is over there, and I still have family and friends over there. But I've noticed that either I deal with it or don't. What happens over there, and again, it doesn't matter where in the world, it will come here. Because America is the first target of the world. Do we know that yet? We know that, right? Mark, we know that. America is the first target. Yeah, he's giving me 2 thumbs up. Yeah, right? I mean, we are the target, so let's stay vigilant. So we want to continue to set out to fulfill our mission for the program. My heart breaks, and I want to mention a few months ago, if you could recall, I had a freelance journalist on the phone from the north of Iraq who was telling us about the devastation of Iraq. His name is Walid Matuka. Walid has become a dear brother and a confidant, a person that I can go to when things are going wrong. Walid is one of those displaced Christians that have moved from here to here and even moved out of the country but came back because of financial situation. I had on the phone program and he reported on the devastation of ISIS. He and his family continues to struggle as he sent me pictures of his elderly ill parents lying on the floor because there is no hospital facilities in the village of Karakosh, which is where he's living. He asked me for help, and I've gone to different organizations, unfortunately. So if God lays it on your heart that you want to help Walid Matuka, there's 6 or 7 members of his family. I think his mom, his dad, his wife, and he himself is not doing too well, that need medical care. So if God lays it on your heart and you want to help, let me know. Email me, monakeshow@gmail.com. monakeshow@gmail.com. You don't have to remember his name. Just say the man you spoke of on the program. We'd like to help him financially. And I can get you, we can get you connected, or we can get the finances in order so that we can get the funds to him. He needs money for medicine, but has no. But obviously, he's not working because he just shared with me today pictures of his parents. But he also told me I would be willing to work, but there's no work. I mean, the area in Karakosh is so devastated. Nadia's looking at me like, it's so devastated. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, ISIS has been defeated." Yeah, well, to what extent? To what good? There's no jobs. There's no hospitals. There's no water. There's no electricity. It's total devastation. It's like people living under a bridge, a destroyed bridge. So I mean, what can they do? I mean, how can this man? There's no facilities. He said, if I tell you the atrocious conditions of these hospitals, and democracy in the KRG. There is democracy in the KRG. Really? Where's the democracy? There's just land grabbing. There's this mess that the KRG just created with their referendum. And I've got so much to go over here. But you know what? I'm just, my brain is about to explode. Some people will say, as we said, ISIS has been defeated. And we said on this program many, many times, the struggle for the people just now begins. Because it's not just about kicking ISIS out. It's what remains after ISIS left. Have you seen videotapes and pictures of what ISIS left behind? Explosions! Just splattered buildings all over the place. That's what ISIS left behind. How are people supposed to go back? And people say, no, the Christians are coming back. Are they really? Just like my brother Walid. He's coming back. He says, to what good? I can't work. I can't make a living. I can't feed my family. So he's still dealing with the devastation, but it's the aftermath, of course. Our brother Walid and his family are doing just that, surviving. They're doing nothing more than surviving. They're existing. And the betrayal of the Christians continues. The betrayal of the story of the Christians continues. And again, I know I'm just mentioning Christians, and what I mean about Christians, and I'm going to name the nation that knows itself as Assyrians, Syriacs, and the Chaldeans. These 3 know themselves as Christians. And of course, there's Armenians that are also Christians. But Christians have gotten it the worst by far. How many more devastations will the Christians suffer before the world finally rises up in their much-needed political, humanitarian, so far lacking or missing efforts? How many more? I mean, it's crazy. This is not another political-driven agenda where somebody is going to get involved just to get ahead or to gain a political position. This is a 911 for a nation about to completely disappear, where they're about to disappear. Currently, the clashes between the KRG and the central government forces has caused yet again, and this is the current news, okay, has caused yet again the Christians to be displaced and once again to be running for their lives. As our brother freelance journalist Stephen Nabil, as many of you, he's got thousands upon thousands of followers who know him very, very well, as he's always reporting from the ground there, who himself was a victim of a terrorist attack, him and his wife, as they were coming back, if you remember, from their honeymoon in the Turkish Airlines. He's reporting, for example, and this is what he's saying on his Twitter account. Christians, and I quote, Christians from Betnaya, Teleskov, Baqufa left their homes when Peshmerga, KRG, the Kurds, refused to retreat and clashes erupted with Iraqi forces nearby. Why? Because the Kurdish insisted on the referendum that they wanted to have on September the 25th, 2017, in spite of the fact that their surroundings was in total devastation. The Christians were running for their lives. The Turks were running for their lives. The Yazidis were running for their lives. And what did they do? They took advantage of a bad situation for others. They started land grabbing. I'm sorry. We're going to have to tell the truth. Okay? And that's why I'm saying there's no other program like this one. Because we need to speak the truth. And the truth hurts, I know. Because the other day I told somebody the truth and they said, why are you saying that to me? I said, I'm sorry, did I lie? No, but why are you saying that to me? We need to realize that if you're going to have a democracy, and I said this last week, you cannot have a democracy without the people. The constituency of the North includes the Christians. If the Christians are not there to vote, how can you have a democracy? How can you grab land that doesn't belong to you? There are disputed areas that don't belong to the Kurds. For example, in this case, what brought this demise is Kirkuk, my home city. That's where I was born. Nadia and I both were born there, in Kirkuk. It's oil rich. And so what did they want to do? It's a disputed area. They wanted to take it. But the Kurds didn't just want to take the disputed areas. For example, we have the Nineveh Plains. Remember the letter that Senator McCain, I've got all of them here. I've got all my articles here. When Senator McCain on May the 25th, we met with it. Well, actually, he produced a letter stating specifically to, and it was stated, and it was dated May 25th of 2016, addressed to the President, Masoud Barzani, saying, take your hands off the Nineveh Plains region. That belongs to the Assyrians. And his exact words were, Nineveh Plains region should be returned to the Assyrians. Why? Because it belongs to it. But he was taking control. He was changing mayors. He was changing leadership. He was doing this and doing that. And all along, the central government was watching. Do you and you know what? I have a grievance with the central government. The central government did not move when KRG was shifting and moving and realigning and taking this land and that land and replacing administration. Iraqi government said absolutely nothing. It is only when they touch their pockets. It's only when KRG touched Kirkuk. It's only when they were going forward to try to include or annex Kirkuk is when the central government rose. Oh my God. Why? Because of the September 25th, 2017 referendum. All major countries stood against this referendum and specifically told President Masoud Barzani back off. It included the U.S. However, Mr. Barzani brazenly thought he could push through, and he even said, and I paraphrase, he said, you know, we need America. We like to have America on board, but if we can't have them, that's okay. We don't need them. Okay, here we go. He not only wanted to control his own region, but those of the many disputed. He wanted independence, not only for the regions, the three regions that he actually presides over, but he wanted many of the disputed and undisputed areas, as I mentioned, the Nineveh Plains region, which belongs to the Assyrian Christians. I was so distraught today. I was so distraught today for the past few days, actually. And then today, the most, because I like to take Thursdays to prepare for my program, but I was so distraught today because for the last a few months, because September we reached 2 years of the launch of the program, and I only thought this program was going to go on for about 3 months. But I thought to myself, for the last 26, 27 months that we've been airing, there were so many points that we made that today it all came together. I was like, okay, so which of the programs should I share today? I was conflicted. I had so much, and that's why I went in there. I just copied as much as I can, and I don't know if I'm going to get to everything today, but because we've been shouting on top of our lungs here at the Mona K Show for attention, for support, and to get to people, to rally support so that people can speak up or understand the issues enough to say, you know what, now I understand it well enough to know that here's what's going on. This is not a matter, that you can take lightly, or a matter of, okay, ISIS came in and ISIS went out. No, this is an ongoing struggle of a population that without which, believe it or not, and I'm going to say this, as the world or the Middle East, if the secular world wants Israel to survive in the Middle East, and it's the only level-headed country out there that they need to, in fact, have Israel in the Middle East, that's what the situation and the position of the Christians. As the world needs Israel in the Middle East, the Christians must remain. The Christians are a vital component of the Middle East, and if you lose the Christians in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq and Syria and Iran and other places, you will have theocracies. You are going to have dictatorships. You are going to have a hard time communicating or being able to communicate with the outside world. I shared a interview, and before I go to this interview, I'd like to take a break because I'm getting dry mouth here, with the Secretary General of the Assyrian Democratic Movement, and he's also one of 5 members of Parliament. His name is Mr. Yonatan Kenna. He actually has been on this program multiple times, and we're going to try to see if we can get him in the next couple of weeks. I love this interview. This is, I think, by far one of his best interviews because of the fact that he pushed back. The main Arabic media has finally got it. Whoa, thank you, aha moment, where they are actually forced to speak on the fact that, you know what, Christians are leaving. And we're about, there's really not a whole lot of Christians. So who do they go to? To the representative of the Christians, whom they call Christians. But he's an Assyrian, and he admits to the fact that he's an Assyrian. But Mr. Yonatan touches on many points, and he lays out a sequence of events that I'm going to speak on and I'm going to highlight, which has been, by the way, again, what we've been speaking on for the last 26, 27 months of this program. We've been highlighting those, and I'm so glad that he actually spoke about them. And we'll be right back. You're listening to the Mona K Show. I'm your host, Mona K Oshana. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Mona K Show on KXEG 1280 AM and 96.1 FM in Phoenix, Arizona.
One night, one chance, let's go. So can we take just a moment? Can we take just a moment with you right next to me? So can we take just a moment? Can we live in the moment right now? You're all that I need. I don't wanna wake up. Don't wanna wake up. Don't wanna wake up. I don't wanna wake up.
Okay. And we are back, coming to you live from the beautiful city of Phoenix, Arizona. This is Mona from the Mona K Show. You are listening on either on 1280 AM or 96.1 FM, depending on which area of the valley you're in. But you can also, of course, download our app on 1280kxeg.com and listen on your smartphone, on your computer, You can listen globally. Wherever you are, you can listen. Right now, the world is so small because of technology. So you're watching us on Facebook Live. Thank you very much for those of you that keep coming back to Facebook Live that we have weekly. Last week, by the way, thank you. With all the sharing, I think we were up to about a little over 2,000 views. So we did pretty good. So let's see if we can do that again today. So for those of you that are just tuning in, once again, we are talking about all that's going on in the Middle East. And I started out by saying that the Christians must be given international protection. That is a statement that is no matter of fact. There's no two ways about it. The Christians must be protected because we are at the point of extinction, and it's not a matter of a question here. And I want to thank Vice President Pence, and I want to get to this video, or actually a soundbite for those of you that want to take a look at it. It's on my Facebook post. But before I get to what the Secretary General of the Syrian Democratic Movement was saying, I'd like to play for you, and let's see if we can get this done, because this is the first time I'm going to be playing it from my computer, and we're setting it up. Vice President Pence to the persecuted Christians, he says, we stand with you. And let me read a little bit about this so I can kind of set up the video. Washington, D.C., May 11, 2017, Vice President Mike Pence on Thursday pledged his prayers and support for persecuted Christians around the globe, as well as members of the religions who are persecuted for their faith. Here's what I want to get to. Your faith inspires me. It humbles me, he said. And it inspires all who are looking on today, Pence said, speaking to persecuted Christians, including Father Douglas Bazzi, a Chaldean Catholic priest from Iraq who survived a 2006 kidnapping and torture before ministering to Christian refugees fleeing ISIS in 2014. On behalf of the President of the United States of America, he says, I say from my heart, Pence continues, we're with you, we stand with you. Now, if you guys recall last May 5th, and I have the soundbite, I'm going to share it on my Facebook feed, but we interviewed Father Bazzi. When I heard he was in the United States, and specifically here in Phoenix, he had 2 engagements that he was actually speaking for. I begged and begged and begged, and I said, you know what, he has to be in the studio, and we did have him in the studio. I call him my hero. He's one of my many heroes, because after his kidnapping, his nose was broken, and I'll let him tell the story. He was here. He has the shirt that he bled on. He was on this program describing all of what he went through. But instead of lying down and saying, well, I'm just going to disappear, I'm going to go to Europe, I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to go rest. No, he's back on the ground. He's back on in church. He's back to serving his community. He's still serving his community as he knows best. He doesn't know how to do anything best. And I love the words he says. He says, you know what? We Christians, we don't know how to quit. We're not going to stop. We'll never deny Christ. Take a listen to this, everybody. I mean, he's a phenomenal man.
They blew up my church in front of me. I got shot by AK-47, Kalashnikov, and still the bullet in my leg. They attacked my church several times. Finally, they kidnapped me for 9 days. Those 9 days, I never forget them. In 9 days, especially the day 6, when they start, take off my teeth one by one, by hammer. So they destroyed my nose, my teeth, and one of the discs in my back. To be Christian in Iraq, to be priest in Iraq, is suicide mission. But we have to take it. I spent 1 year and a half, the last 1 year and a half, with the people. They escaped from ISIS, the Islamic State. 125,000 people displaced overnight, in just overnight, in 1 day. 4 dioceses disappeared. Imagine those people, they lost everything in 1 day. Everything in 1 day. But still, those people, they are there, suffering. Why I am here? I want you to tell her that my people feel and believe that we are forgotten and we are alone. Many of you here in Europe, they want me to say that. Who should blame for that? We should blame America to what happened to my country. And everyone actually happy to hearing that from me. But actually, all of you were watching when America was destroyed in my country. I am here actually, while you are here discussing, just to recognize what happened to my people as a genocide. My people are dying. We spent 100 years just to recognize the 1915, the Armenian genocide, as a genocide. So please, gentlemen, we are going to wait another 100 years to recognize what happened to my people as genocide? So, I begging you here, find the solution to make my people to find the future. We are not looking for land. We are looking for future. I wish my people to have country to call it home, but doesn't matter. We are looking to have a place where find love and justice. We are going to call it home. But please provide that to us, to avoid my people to come asking for refugee to be in your border here. Find life to us there with dignity. So if you cannot open your doors to my people, help my people to stand there. Thank you for listening.
I mean, if that doesn't move you, then I don't know what does. I mean, I'm holding back tears, and I know because I have a personal interest in all of this.
Say that he was on the radio. Just wait a minute.
For those of you that were listening, of course, that was Father Douglas Bazzi. That was the priest that Vice President Pence referred to when he said, "Your faith inspires me," but he was talking about the Christians altogether. But he said, "Your faith inspires me, it humbles me, and it inspires all who are looking on today." He was speaking, of course, to the persecuted Christians. In the audience included was Father Douglas Bazzi. Douglas Bazzi was a Chaldean Catholic priest from Iraq who survived a bombing. He survived being shot. He survived being kidnapped for 9 days. During those 9 days, his teeth were broken, his nose was broken, and he was let go thinking that he was going to die. But I think, and everybody thought he was going to die. No, his own church didn't even think, and then all of a sudden he reappeared. And of course that was God's guidance and God's mercy and God's allowance in sparing his life for such a time as this. And look at all that he's doing with his life, with his spared life, because he should have been dead 4 or 5 different times in his life, but here he is. So, as he says, the Christians have been forgotten, they've been abandoned, and how much longer is it going to take for us to recognize that there's a genocide going on? And this is why what Yonathan Kenna, Mr. Yonathan Kenna is saying makes so much sense. Now, to go back a little bit about the story of the KRG, I wrote an article that's on Storify. It's called KRG Called For, and that's what I titled it. KRG Called For an Illegitimate and Impulsive Referendum of Independence. Again, as we have been saying to you. And I wrote this article way before, so that, there was no question. And even then, we realized, I wrote it 4 months ago. And if you go on Storify and you type in my name, Monica Oshana, O-S-H-A-N-A, which is my last name, you will see all of my articles, one of which is this KRG Call for an illegitimate, and we call it illegitimate because how dare the KRG call for a referendum when the owners of the land were not even there? And they took advantage of the worst opportunity that could happen to say, you know what, we're having a referendum. Well, you know what, karma. I'm sorry. Simple enough. Karma. It was just a matter of time before they came back at you. Iraqi Prime Minister was tough on ISIS, but it was this approach to the Kurds that really made him popular. And in other words, he held back on many things, but now that he's hitting back towards the KRG, he's getting his popularity up. So here we go. Ratings. His ratings are going up. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi, Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has won public and political praise. Yay! For sending troops to reclaim disputed territory after the Kurdish independent vote last month. And what ended up happening? Who fell through the cracks? The Christians! I told you I was going to scream today. I was going to shout. The Christians keep falling through the cracks because they are the biggest victims. They have no one to protect them. The Kurds have outside help. The Arabs, Shia, and Sunni have outside help. And God bless the biggest, also the biggest victims, of course, are the Yazidis. But now they have gained international recognition where everybody's talking about, even Amal Clooney is right now defending Nadia Murad and has made a mission and a purpose on that. They're on the platform. They're on the international platform. And Amal Clooney, of course, being the actor's wife, George Clooney's wife, she has taken on this case and gone global with it, And so the Christians remain with, where are the Christian community? Where are the Christians of the world? Are we not Christian enough for you? I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't know how to convince the Christian community to rise up and to help your fellow man. As I always quote our bishop here in Phoenix, or in Glendale actually, that lives here, who said to one of the churches that we visited when ISIS took over Mosul, we said, we come knocking on our brethren's doors. And you know what? We knocked, we went in. They were very polite, these churches. But as of yet, have we received any help? And it's sad. And it's sad to say. You know what? Let me go into this. I don't know how much of this we can cover. But again, Mr. Yonaram Kenna has said, and as we have always been saying, these conflicts, didn't start with Daesh or ISIS. We have been pointing this out for the past 2.5 years on the program to say, you know what, people? You might have seen Daesh or ISIS come on the scene and you said, oh no, the Christians have been suffering with the likes of ISIS for centuries. But if we go to the most recent history, we won't go too far. These conflicts are even prior to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. And that's why I wrote an article let me see, when did I write this? I wrote this, I can't see this, let me put my glasses on real quick. A year ago. I wrote this a year ago, called The Triangle of Deception. This is no secret to the Assyrians and the Chaldeans and the Syriacs. Everybody knows this Triangle of Deception. Who were they? During the World War I or World War II, when you have 3 countries coming in, the Assyrian nation was betrayed by those who made promises and never delivered. Russia, France, and United Kingdom, who occupied the Middle East during World War I and II, came to serve their interests to pillage, conquer, and divide the Middle East. The Assyrians, a Christian nation as a whole, defenders of peace in the region, long considered the indigenous people of the land, joined the army of the West, fighting against the Ottomans, the Persians, the Arabs, and the Kurdish. Tyranny, being promised by the Western coalition an independent safe haven with security measures from the international community. These same 3 countries that recruited the Assyrian army, promising to help restore their lands, later betrayed them by secretly changing course to side with the enemy. All 3 countries must now be held accountable for their role in setting into motion the current persecution against the Christians in the Middle East, prompted by their withdrawal in 1932. You know why I say that? You know why they started that? Because at that point, when the coalition forces, Russia, France, and UK, left left Iraq, or left Syria, left that region, you know what ended up happening? The wolves came out, and they all looked at us as betraying the country. They looked at us as the enemy of the country. And therefore, that systematic plan has been going on. And then, of course, I can go back to the Ottomans. I can go back and back and back. And of course, you know, we just shared with you the story of how in 600 years, the Assyrian Church of the East had not been able to set foot officially. Now, I'm not saying Assyrians haven't gone to Jerusalem. Many bishops, many people have gone to Jerusalem, but never to the impact that we made this last trip that we went with the bishop, ordaining two deacons officially into the order of priesthood. That was historical. It wasn't historical, the fact that we went to Jerusalem. The historical aspect of it for 600 years, because of the persecution of the Turk-Mongol Tamerlane that completely annihilated the Assyrian Church of the East, all Christians in the Mesopotamia region, there was no connection. There was no spiritual connection with Jerusalem. Now we have reconnected. And so this is why we're saying that this is significant. Why? Because history is teaching us, and we must learn from history. Otherwise, it means nothing. There always was a plan to displace or scrape the Christians from the Middle East. Each authoritative government picked up where the other left off. I will start with the Persians, then go to Ottomans, the Kurds, and the Arab. It has always been the same plan in the hands of a different perpetrator. All have attacked the Christians in the name of Islam. Each authoritative government learning from the lesson plan of the evil predecessor they took over from. As recent as 2003, when Iraq was finally liberated from the hands of the tyrant dictator Saddam Hussein, the Christians, and this is just, I'm paraphrasing what Mr. Yonatan Kenna was saying, and I agree totally with it. That's why I'm going through this. The Christians were screaming and shouting for help, but the world once again ignored and dealt with the issue of the Christians as that of the other ethnic groups, saying, wait your turn. Wait your turn. You ain't no special. You ain't more special than the rest. Each group finding for themselves, no one really, never mind that we were at the near of extinction. Nobody even looked close enough to say what's going on here. Iraq after 2003 became a land of lawlessness, greed, and mafia-style government. Each group was fending for themselves, and no one was fending for the Christians, because no one listened and not only really fixed the problem. Therefore, the solution, what they thought, the West came in thinking that this was the solution, the liberation itself became the bigger problem. Do you know liberating Iraq became the bigger problem? Now people will say, what in the heck are you talking about, Mona? Liberating Iraq from the hands of Saddam Hussein, right now people will say, was the worst thing that could have happened. You know why? While Saddam Hussein was a dictator, yes, we all agree, I and my family, we all escaped during Saddam Hussein's era. Yet he was an organized and methodical, and very methodical about taking control of the country. He had everybody under control, okay? Everyone didn't breathe. They all feared him, therefore submitted to his will. No one thought twice about crossing him. As we have said on this program, there it is, once again, we went from bad to worse. Saddam was bad. Where we are right now in Iraq is worse. But that does not mean we want bad to come back. We don't want Saddam Hussein to come back. Bad is still bad. Mr. Kenna points to the year 68 and 69 where it all started, when the most stringent force came against the Christians. But of course, I just pointed to you, point to an earlier time, and that I feel the triangle, in my article, Triangle of Deception. Once again, it's on Storify.com. Look me up, Mona K. Oshana. It's in there. The Christians were displaced way before ISIS came in. A lot of people say, oh, the Christians were displaced. Did you know that Christians have been displaced for the last, I want to say, 150 years? Strategically have been displaced. Because they moved from region to region within the Middle East to get away from the worst of the two evils. Where can I go? From Turkey, where my family, my ancestors are from. My ancestors are from Turkey, in a town called Ashita. From Turkey to Iran, from Iran to Iraq, and then going into, and then of course to Syria, and many who fled to Russia actually have a better situation. I have an uncle, a great uncle, I think 2 great uncles, yeah, 1, 2, yeah, great uncle, and we have family in Russia that we haven't seen. So, and that's because of the persecution. How many minutes do we have, Mark? 5 minutes. See how time flies when you're having fun. Oh, no, 8 minutes. Oh, good. No, 9 minutes. I got 9 minutes. I got 9 minutes. Thank you, Mark. Okay, let's go through this. And then once they are actually in the country, wherever country, and I'm going to speak about specifically about Iraq because I know the area, of course, better. For those of us, for example, for my family, you know, we moved from Mosul to Baghdad, from Basra to north of Iraq, and so on and so forth. And this is a story, and not just my family story. When I tell you my family story, you better believe there are millions just like me. There are so many like me that can relate to me, and that's why when I wrote Look Beyond the Fire, it's not just my story, it's everybody's story. And those that come from that kind of life read my book and say, you know what, I can relate to this. They start laughing and say, I remember that. Yeah, because that's where we come from. That's what the kind of life we come from. So, you know, of course the world never knew, because of the silent struggle, the Christians in despair, the story of the Christians in despair goes on, and it continues today. In the late 60s and early 70s saw the greatest Christian exodus since Daesh invaded Mosul, where you'll find most of who live in Detroit, Michigan today came or immigrated during that time. Why? Because that's when the Ba'ath regime was taking over, and that restriction and that constriction of life was taking place, and a lot of people left. This is why we escaped. My family escaped. We left Iraq in 77 because, you know, we endured up until then, and then my mom finally said, you know, she got a premonition from God, said, you know what, it's not safe to stay here anymore. And so this is why we escaped, because my family had been brought through this journey, of course. And, of course, my mom comes from Turkey, and the massacre, of course, she was 1 year old when the massacre of Semeda happened, and then the Ba'ath Iron Rule, and here we are today. The Iraq-Iran war claimed another 40 to 60,000 Christians within the 8,000 lives that were lost fighting a senseless war between two madmen, Saddam Hussein and Ayatollah Khomeini. And, of course, in 93, put another nail in the coffin of the planned annihilation of the Christians when Saddam Hussein added the takbir, Allahu Akbar, which we don't have anything against, but the way that he did it and why he did it, to the flag, when he added the Allahu Akbar to the flag, was in a way to rally support of the Arab world to his losing battle, because he was losing support, he was losing attention, he was losing his agenda, which further marginalized the identity of the Assyrian Christians. Because see, the Assyrians they were not just fighting for their Christian faith as Christians. They're also fighting on another front, and I've always said this, and you know we've said this on the program. The Assyrians are fighting two fronts. To preserve their Assyrian indigenous status as the indigenous people of the country, which is the Assyrians, coming from Babel, from Ashur, from King Sargon, King Ashur, and also for their faith. So here you have, their identity being attacked, because now you were forced to say, I'm an Arab. You have to write, I'm an Arab. Assyrians, Syriacs, and Chaldeans are the indigenous people of Iraq, and they were there from the beginning. This caused another exodus of about 300 to 400,000 Christians to leave Iraq. Do you see how the Christians are moving away? Now I come to 2003, when it was the worst, because when we thought a rescuer was in sight, yay! Throwing flowers to the troops, remember? Giving candy, all over the place, because America is here. It sealed the tomb for the Christian existence in Iraq. Everyone in Iraq was affected, but no other nation, as the Assyrian Christians, suffered as much. We suffered the greatest losses as we continued our plight to survive. There was no equality, no humanity, no rule of law. It was lawlessness as portrayed in in the movie called The Book of Elijah. Book of Elijah, right? Yeah, we've got 2 minutes. Where people kill or be killed to survive. Most of the components that make up Iraq, which are Arabs, Kurds, Turks, to some extent had outside help. But the Christians were left to fend for themselves. Because you had never heard the Christians saying, help me, because we were fending for ourselves. We were warriors. We were the Assyrian warriors that, were fighting on behalf now of all Christendom, except that the Christians of the world were ignoring us. It became an uncertain conditional institution in Iraq, where you would have to play the game of the different political groups in order to eat or feed your family. So it's either you do what I tell you or you don't eat today. To an already starving, battered, butchered, defeated nation, as the Christians, the Christian nation, the Christian Assyrians, what else was there to do? You couldn't find a job, as we are just we were just talking about our brother Walid Matuka. You couldn't find a job if you didn't pay homage to a certain group. Influence was everything. I remember during the Ba'ath regime, you either became a part of the government or you remained irrelevant, and then eventually disappeared if you opposed the government. Christians went from no representation to representation in the government in name only. As we have always said, don't believe the picture. In this case, it doesn't speak 1,000 words. The picture is wrong. The picture is just nothing else than show and tell. See, the government is saying, we have democracy here. We're giving the Christians a position to speak, but the Constitution says otherwise. The Iraqi Constitution leans towards the no freedom of religion, and so the Islamic religion is imposed and is practiced. Many of the laws on the books favor the Islamic way of life with no freedom. Churches were the first buildings being blown up because they knew that that is where the Christians would congregate, and that is where they will find safety and survival. And so this is why we're saying, as a Christian woman, why did I vote Trump? I voted Trump because I believed in the administration, and I knew that this administration would in fact come to the rescue of the Christians. I hope I'm not wrong. What do you think? Tell me. Thank you for listening today. We love you. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Mona K Show. Until the next time, we love you. Goodbye.
1280 The Trumpet is proud to introduce the brand new